How do you connect with the sacred? How do you reflect the sacred? Well, there's no reflection without the connection. So we gotta first experience it, feel it, connect it. But how do we do that? Our passage that we have just heard from St. Paul the Apostle writing to the Romans, he says, the sacred is like coming. And what it takes to pay attention to is like, be aware. It's like the night is coming to an end and the sun is rising. And he invites us to say, it's coming, focus, pay attention, be aware, look for it. For God's world, there is another world, and that other world, the sacred world, is in this world, right here among us. It's not the beyond, the far away, it's the here and now. And the Celtic spirituality, I love that. They say there is this veil in between God's world and our world. And there are experiences and times when the veil is lifted and we see some of the glimpses of the glory of God. It's like this, wow, it's this awe, it's this wonder, it's this, wow. So why is it that so often we don't feel like it? We miss the point. We're kind of in la la land. From my perspective, there are two great enemies to being more in tune and more in touch, being more connected, feeling more deeply the sacred. One is busyness. I don't have to explain. I know from myself, sometimes I'm running around like a chicken with the head cut off, all over the place. So being so busy, we miss paying attention, miss being attuned, aligned, open. The second thing is distractions. The news are on, there is so much going on, I'm on my phone, I'm scrolling, I'm all over the place again, versus calming, centering, paying attention and focusing on the sacred inside of us and the sacred around us. So busyness, noisiness, everything that's going around, and the distractions being all over the place, that is not very conducive to connect and experience the sacred. So then, what helps, and how do we connect to the sacred? And this is how I imagine it. Two things. One is, you know, that image of Jesus knocking at the door. It's a metaphor for Jesus knocking at our heart's door. So Jesus present in us, among us, very, very present. The question is, do we pay attention to it? Do we pay attention to the knocking? The other image, some of you are hunters, are out in the woods, hunting season. What do you do to encounter wildlife? You pay attention. Not a lot of distraction doesn't help. All the busyness will make it run away. So the paying attention, being in tune, opening up to what is, to the miracle, for God is close by. Jesus is as close to us as our own heartbeat, as our own breath. And when we open up and breathe deeply and pay attention, are here and now present, that is most likely when we encounter the greater I am, the presence of the living one. So very specifically, what helps you connect, experience the sacred? There are a couple of things that help me. Just being together with some others, like this last Thanksgiving, we had our kids home and baking together, just cooking together, doing things together, playing board games. There is something about that togetherness, not doing it all on our own and by ourselves. To me, there is something about even growing up knowing baking Christmas cookies with Grandma. There was something sacred about that. Holiness, sacredness, close by. Second thing is, for me, music. There is something about music that moves me. Music that opens the sacred, opens heaven. There's a piece of heaven on earth when I tune in with music. And the best thing is when I participate in the music and sing myself, sing along. Sometimes singing in the shower, I just forget myself, forget the world. It's just being in tune. And sometimes it's just a tune of the last hymn we rehearsed, or the last choir piece, or something I heard. So there's something about music. And the third thing is, and this may be countercultural, but the third thing is to pay attention to the longing of your heart and soul. There is a longing in each and every one of us. And longings, in my experience, are connected partly to losses, partly to just things are not as they used to be. Longing for home, for example, for me. Just having traveled and moved on and moved on. Where is home? Well, the longing for home, and that God meets me in that longing, that Jesus wants me to be at home with God, at home with Jesus. So being in touch with that longing, being in touch with grief and the sadness. Sometimes I think for many of us, it's the most joyous season, exhilarating. You see the children, it's like, wow. For others, it's the saddest, most painful, most depressing season because the love of their life or whoever is not here anymore. Instead of running from that darkness, turning all the lights up, turning the music higher and so on, to become aware of the longing. I think and I deeply believe that God instilled that longing in our hearts to sit with it and to help us connect through it with the living God. The longing in our hearts. Leonard Cohen said, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light enters us. So if your world is not perfect, welcome to the human race. There is a reason for it, where we experience the pain, the crack, the brokenness, the sadness, the grief, the down. That's where God wants to meet us. Or Rumi said, the wound is where God reaches us. So the wound, imagine where you hurt. That's where grace enters us, where light comes into us, where God tries to reach us. Togetherness, being with others in a deeper, more beautiful way, through music, by paying attention to the longing in my heart. How do you connect with the sacred? And how will you reflect it